And hello again, everybody. How the heck are ya? We're here at the After Show, and we have with us today, of course, Faithless Southerner, and we have Kate, the Bionic Dance, and we have Mrs. Snarky, and we have Silver Lena. And have I got everybody?
Hello again, everybody. How the heck are ya?
Oh, we get to hear it again. Yay!
Oh, yay! Who forgot to mute?
And we have Kate, Bionic Dance, and we have Mrs. Snarky, and we have Silver Lena. And
There we go.
I got everybody. Hello again, everybody. How the heck are ya?
Wow, that audio is like an arrow through the ears. Good God, get a good microphone.
So, Kate,
My fault.
did you rearrange or are you moving?
Neither actually. I got rid of a couch that I never used and made room for more virtual reality playing.
Hell yeah.
Because I was smacking into bookcases and that couch constantly when I was playing some of the games that require a lot of movement. And I figured, what the heck? The only drawback that I've found so far is that the cat does not appear to be coping well with not having an arm to rest on the couch. She'll get used to it. She'll get used to it.
You'll have to get Kitty a pillow on a pillar.
Well,
There
I
you go.
have another chair that she used to like to sit on, but I don't think she's realized it's hers yet. She does have a kitty tree, though. So
Yeah, we can see it over your, your left shoulder by the window
I
there.
know.
I wish I had the room for one of those.
I realize it probably looks like I'm moving just because this room is not particularly well arranged, but that green thing back there is like a green screen I don't use anymore. And I just never put it on a shelf. So.
Oh, okay. So your place right now is about as organized as the Lavender Studio. Okay, that
Yeah.
works. That works.
Yeah.
Trying to rearrange all my stuff. My office is currently a storage room. Like, you can barely open the door. As soon as you open the door, there's just bookshelves and furniture everywhere, and boxes. Lots of boxes.
Oh, is
Snarky Studio trademark copyright is in our bedroom. So yeah.
Yeah.
it? Okay, that works out
Filming
really well.
is just right here, or on the living room couch, one of the two. But I'll be happy whenever my office is cleared out. So. Yay!
I can't get rid of my couch because my couch is also my bed. So
Yeah.
well, that killed that one. So what's everybody up to on this wonderful Mother's Day?
Trying to teach people that intersex is a fucking thing.
Why do people not understand?
Well,
No.
the thing is, I kind of get why people don't get it. I mean, because it is something that most people don't encounter all the time. Like, I have a couple of intersex friends, just because, well, hell, when you're LGBT, you meet all sorts, right?
Right.
And but most people just don't encounter that, and when they hear about it, it's like some sort of aberration, like some sort of abomination. They never like that. It's really hard for them to humanize people like that.
It's so common though. Like, people have this misconception that it's like, 1 in 1 million. No, it's like 1 in 2,000. Like, it's common.
Well,
Yeah.
it probably doesn't help that there's like, you can't spot someone who's intersex just by looking at them.
No,
Like you don't know. I'm sure I know people who are intersex that I don't know are intersex. I mean,
Right.
hell, maybe even they don't know us. So
Exactly.
Well, I
Yeah.
was about to say that.
I have a family member, one that, hopefully will grow up knowing. I'm not really sure with their parents, but that's the whole thing. But I have another one that didn't know. I didn't even know until they were 18 or 19. Yeah.
Okay.
And they found out from their doctor.
Yeah. I was
Right.
going to say because in
The
certain
parents,
cases,
it wasn't that they didn't know. It was just that they chose to not tell their child.
Yeah.
So the kid didn't understand why they were feeling the way they felt, and they thought maybe they were trans or something like that. And yeah,
That's
There was an
rough.
episode of House about this too, where there was like this chick who was a model started having some weird like symptoms, and it turned out that like she had androgen insensitivity syndrome.
I was just going to bring that one
remember
up.
That one. I
Yeah.
love that episode. That was fun. But yeah, it seems like anything that doesn't fit into one of two categories just blows people's minds for some reason. And to me, what's really what's really frustrating is the multiple amounts of these people are the ones that are on YouTube debunking bad science, and
Yeah.
it just does not compute in my mind.
I can't count past 2, so that may be some of the issues that people have.
Okay.
Well, I was watching a debate between what was it, Sargon and somebody else whose name I don't know. They were talking about like I guess it was trans people or something, and Sargon's argument. The more I listened to it, what it boiled down to really was, who can I try to fuck without triggering my homophobia?
Oh Lord!
Everything he said, like he never came right out and said it, but that's sure what it sounded like.
Yeah, that's how he comes across. In my opinion, I'm sorry, I see him as a bad faith actor. Period.
No,
Well,
Sargon?
Really?
What?
No, I wouldn't have thought it.
But I mean that seems to be the whole thing. Whenever it involves like I can't handle more than 2 categories of sexes.
Yeah.
That's usually what it comes down to, is I don't want to find myself in a situation that's abnormal because it might make me feel uncomfortable.
Oh,
Exactly.
wow.
Oh,
You
I know. This is
Yeah.
what the motto of my channel is: don't run on automatic.
right?
You know?
Yeah. Well, this is where my comment to Answers in Genesis very often comes from, or some of the other, especially transphobic people out there, being, are you afraid that you might be attracted to one of us or be one of us? Which is it?
Exactly.
Well, I've often mentioned that one weird little dilemma that I've had on occasion is looking at a woman thinking, wow, she's attractive, but do I want to be like her or do I want to be with her? That's a very strange sort of moment where it's like, fuck or be.
What the? Okay. I don't understand this. So does everybody else exist in order for you to analyze whether or not you would fuck us?
No, of course not.
That is so weird.
It is.
No, but it's just I have these moments of, wow, that person's attractive, but I don't know if I'm attracted to or wish I looked like that so I could be attractive.
Kate,
and it's definitely not everybody.
It's definitely Sargon, though, right?
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay. If you're not accusing me of it, then fine.
No, I was talking about Sargon.
Oh, okay.
Because, that seems to be the time that I keep running into in terms of having this discussion. And it blows my mind. How can someone live that way?
Well, okay, what's kind of weird is, like, I seem to have some YouTube blind spots where there's people that I hear mentioned a lot, or occasionally, or even just from one person, and I've never encountered them like in any kind of real context. Like, I only knew of Sargon's existence because Noel Plum 99 mentions him a fair bit. If I'd never heard that, like if I'd never watched Noel Plum, I'd never have heard Sargon until just now. And like that debate that I watched, I think it was yesterday or the day before, was the first time I'd ever heard his voice. So it's kind of weird. It's like there's these people I just managed to never encounter, and I don't know why.
Well, that's good.
You're lucky.
Good for you. Right.
Well, it's not entirely good. I mean, sometimes these people need a severe taking down.
Yeah, I encounter too many of the Sargon types, and it's weird. Like one of my friends recently got into a debate with me, and I just kind of started stuttering, and I'm like, "You do realize you sound like Sargon, right?" And his response was, "Really? Oh, I'm going to take that as a compliment because he's really intelligent." And I'm just
Oh my god!
Oh,
Are
my
you kidding
word.
me?
no.
Uh,
Just
Jen,
say that to me.
Jen
No.
Morgan, Sargon is a very right-wing British YouTuber who
Who
evolved.
claims to
Who
be
evolved.
liberal?
Say again.
Who claims to be liberal?
Yes, yes, can't forget that.
Classical liberal, which is right wing nut job, basically.
And of all things, is running for a political position. Is it on the EU Parliament or some crap like that?
UKIP. I don't know.
Yeah,
He's in the UKIP party, the
Yeah.
UK Independence Party. Guy by the name of Carl Benjamin. He's a total jackass.
Yeah.
He needs a milkshake/egg.
I completely agree that his views on gender and sex do tend to be about whether or not he would personally want to fuck someone. I mean that seems to be the general.
Or whether or not he would rape them. So
Yes.
I mean,
Yes,
that,
yes, can't forget that.
it's he's not one dimensional. He's got two dimensions. Whether or not I'd fuck it, or whether or not I'd rape it.
Yeah.
Has he actually said that about rape? I haven't.
Yes,
Yes, he
he
has.
said that to a member of Parliament, an MP. I think her name was Kate, actually.
Yep.
Yeah, I wouldn't even rape you.
Yeah,
was his comment,
Wow.
and then he came back and released a video that said, "Due to public pressure, I might rape you."
Oh, egad.
Yeah.
He's
I'm starting to see why there was some like, didn't he get deplatformed by YouTube at some point? I seem to remember that.
Yes,
Yeah,
for
he-
using
I'm
the
starting to
N-word.
see why.
Yeah.
Patreon nuked him because he
And
said,
Patreon.
he for using the N-word in an incredibly offensive context.
But he argued that it wasn't. He argued that he wasn't using it in an offensive context because he was using it against white supremacists, and I'm like, wait, what? He's gymnastics of that argument. My mind just went.
Yeah, he's so incredibly blind that he didn't realize that what he was saying was just as racist as any sort of white supremacy. I mean, he's an absolute shitbag. He has no redeeming qualities.
And just for the record, there's no context in which using the N-word is okay. Yeah. Just for the record.
Yeah, and
on
top of that, he used it in just
the black guy rapping, because they say it all the time.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of like taking your own pejorative and turning it around and taking away the power. It's a little different. But
I
recognize I'm being pedantic, but there are situations where somebody can use it, and it won't bring down the massive shitstorm of anti-racists, which honestly should happen to some people, but not everybody, I guess.
I do have the question though, because I hear of people, school systems banning Mark Twain. And I wonder, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? In Huckleberry Finn, you've got the whole thing. There was an accident, a train accident or something. I forget what exactly it was. And the passerby who was talking to Huckleberry Finn was describing this. Huckleberry asked, "Was anybody hurt?" And the guy said, "No, but it killed an N-word."
Mm-hmm.
And isn't there a Mark Twain character named N-word Jim?
Yeah,
is that so. Is that his full name?
It may be. I can't remember. It's one of those old Southern authors.
I think that's literally the guy. Like, that's what they call him. It's capital N-word, capital J. That's just his name. That's a nickname or something.
That might be the runaway slave in Huckleberry Finn.
Yeah.
And we had an issue in my home state of Louisiana where they tried to, for a few years, they censored the N-word out of any book, any historical text, any, like the history books, for example, didn't have the N-word in it.
In a
it
way,
was-
I think, like, just in terms of knowing our history of racism, we should keep it. Like, in some contexts.
You can't just pretend as though people don't and did not create it to use it as a racial slur.
Well, I mean,
Right.
my question whenever these things come up is what do we lose? This is similar to the should we replace certain characters with people of color, right? And my estimation of it is what do we lose if we did this thing? What is lost out of Mark Twain's writing if we censor the N-word out? And to me, the answer is hardly anything, because it's not like, there are cases where I think that you could make a decent argument for keeping it in there. And then there are cases where it doesn't actually impact anything to do with said story or said narrative. And so why would we if it has the capabilities to offend somebody?
See, that's the thing, Rose. I do think it's important to keep certain parts of our history just so we know, like, this is what we used to do, this is what we used to be, and this is like a lesson of what not to do.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't think that it's to our benefit to pave over the bad parts of history, the shameful parts of history. Because, I mean, like, what if we started doing that with, say, the Nazis?
What do we lose by censoring the N-word out of Mark Twain's writing?
History.
Effect, possibly, because let's remember
History.
that
Okay, so
Mark Twain was very, very anti-slavery, very. Well, I don't know if you'd call him pro-black the same way you would today, but he was definitely anything but a racist, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, I mean, if
For
we
his
have
time.
like the bad guys are using these horrible pejoratives, and we're showing that's why they're the bad guys, you gotta keep it.
Well, I mean,
Let
I
me
think
fill this baby.
if you were to like put an asterisk or something in the eye or something like that, you would still know what the word is.
Oh my!
You would still know that it's a pejorative. You'd still know that it's the bad guy.
I suppose it sounded, though, more like we were talking about whitewashing it completely. Like just wiping it out. This never happened. That's what it sounded like.
Well, again, and this is just, and I'm not saying that I necessarily fall either way on this discussion, but I have the same the mentality that I like to go through whenever I'm thinking about these things, or what would we lose if we decided to censor this word, or if we decided to change this character's gender or their race, things like that. If the answer is we wouldn't lose anything, then what's the point? But if the answer is that we would lose a essential.
I hate that argument. I hate that argument with the white hot fury of 1,000
Okay,
suns.
why?
And I'll explain why. Okay, here's the thing. There is a series that I'm actually quite enjoying. It's the Supergirl series, right? I don't know if you've seen that TV show. And they took Jimmy Olsen and turned him, Jimmy Olsen has always been kind of a nerdy white guy, right? Yeah. And they turned him into this sort of strong, badass black dude. And number one, why the hell is he in Supergirl? It doesn't take place in Metropolis. But number two, what did we gain by calling the character Jimmy Olsen? He's a great character. I love him. He's awesome. I like watching him, but he's not fucking Jimmy Olsen.
So then my estimation from where I'm sitting is that they changed a fundamental aspect of the character that was intrinsic to the character, and so therefore that's something that they shouldn't have done.
Okay, but
if you get
Starbuck, I mean, Starbuck should not be a chick. Starbuck is a cigar chomping like guy. That's who he is.
And I have no problem.
And I've had people arguing that James Bond should be a black guy, and I'm like, why? It's my argument is make a new character, make a new series. Don't usurp something else, because when you start doing this to characters, when you like change their gender or like make them a photo negative of the original character, it smacks of tokenism, is what it is.
Would you? Okay, so here, and I do have a problem with the make a new character argument. because I would much rather Idris Elba as James Bond than David Spade. Because the thing about it is again,
either one of them is James Bond. They're wrong for the character, both of them. And I mean, seriously, what's so wrong with saying I want a black super spy? I'll write a new black super spy. Why does it have to be James Bond? It's kind of like I'm looking at the new female Doctor Who, and I'm saying if you want a female Time Lord, do a spin-off of Romana.
But okay, hold on. Just hold the fuck up here, because the Time Lords have always in the series. We get gender bending Time Lords. I don't care who. I don't care who Doctor Who is.
You could do a spin-off of Romana, and it wouldn't piss off anybody.
And the people that are pissed off about Doctor Who being a female are ridiculous. That is a really dumb thing, because from the get-go,
fan of people like Tom Baker. That's who Doctor Who is to me. Is someone like Tom Baker.
Then watch Tom Baker's season and leave the others alone. No, I mean, I don't particularly care for Matt Smith, but
because then we don't get anything new. Tom Baker was ages ago. We want someone new.
When it comes to Doctor,
get go of the timeline, though, that the Doctor can change genders and like I still think a Romana spinoff would make sense. That would be better just from a marketing perspective.
But there's nothing, especially in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
That the character is not tied to a gender or to a race or to anything like that. I mean, it was built in from the get-go.
Every time that the Doctor every time the Doctor like kind of reanimates or whatever, oh, I wish I would have been a ginger. You know, they're a different character every time.
Okay,
but you're saying consider the fans. I understand that you're saying consider the fans. When has the Doctor changed and the fans have not been pissed? Right. Every iteration of the Doctor, people are mad about it.
Okay, this is still kind of nitpicky. My point is that they've done it with a lot of other characters, whether it's Doctor Who or not, and it's almost always made somebody go, but that's not that's not the Battlestar Galactica from my childhood. You didn't respect the original, and I wanted just more of the original, and that's what I wanted.
Well, then congratulations. Watch the original.
No, but see, that's my point. There's nothing new. No. Just watch the original.
I want the original, but I want it to be new. Is that your argument?
No. I want more of the original. More of what I used to like. Not like when you say, just watch the original. Well, most of the fans have watched those episodes over and over and over. We want something we haven't seen 1,000 times before.
Yeah.
Well, I think with each generation, they want the old and the familiar, and but things change, and when they do, there are aspects to it that are difficult to accept. But I think that's just kind of life.
Well, but they change so much. I mean, if you look at the Battlestar Galactica, hold on. You look at the original Battlestar Galactica. It was kind of light and fun. It was very sort of Star Wars-y stuff. And then the new one, they make it all dark and depressing. And I'm like, where's the fun in this shit?
I love dark and depressing.
I hate dark and depressing. And if you're going to make something new that's dark and depressing, then make something that's 100% new instead of usurping something that already has a fan base.
That's such a... Because I genuinely enjoy the new Battlestar Galactica significantly better.
That's exactly
than the old, because
different names with different visual designs make it 100% its own thing. What's wrong with that?
I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. That happens every fucking day whenever a new series comes out.
Yeah.
But there's also nothing wrong with redesigning something.
I think there is. There is.
Because again, it's a new director, it's a new actors, new direction, the whole shooting match. I mean, because
why not make something 100% new? Why does it have to usurp the original?
Well, it's kind of like this. I'm an artist, okay, and mainly what I have done is like scenery, like nature scenery and stuff like that. If I were to start going like more abstract, then that would piss off my audience. But it's me. It's up to me as the creator to create whatever it is.
It's not the same thing at all.
my point is, it's up to the creators to do what inspires them.
But here's the other thing: you're never not.
It's different with narrative fiction. It is different with narrative fiction. You cannot use that as a comparison.
Look. The thing about it is you're never not going to piss off fans with any
Exactly.
remake that you do. With anything that you ever do, you're never not going to have that person that stands up and goes, "I want it to be this way, and it should be this way for this reason."
Again, maybe you won't, but there are. I mean, this is still a spectrum. I mean, if you look at what they tried to do with that complete abomination that they called a sequel to Tron, okay, they had no respect for the original whatsoever. At all. The uniforms didn't look the same. They had an actual band from the real world that was a band inside the computer world. They didn't use the original score, which was super, super unique. It just basically wasn't Tron. It was an action movie with a Tron gloss paste over it, and they shouldn't have used it. They shouldn't have done that. They should have done something where if you were to watch the original and then the sequel back to back, there wasn't this sudden what the fuck is this? It's so different. This is not related in any way.
Well, to me, my point is, whenever you're a creator of any sort, whether it be art or entertainment things, I think that if you stifle that creativity, you just get more of the same blah stuff, and it's not going to inspire more creativity.
Maybe it's not blah. Maybe it's not blah. I mean,
it's blah to the creator. Otherwise, they wouldn't feel like...
If you're doing a sequel, if you're doing something that already has an established canon, a look, a fan base, if you start changing it too much... It's not okay. I'm sorry. It's not up to the creator at that point. It's just not.
Well, to me, my viewpoint, like I said, is more, let's expand the creativity. And it's not so much.
Completely changing is quite another.
Yeah.
Well, someone in the chat was mentioning, why make Captain Kirk a woman? I liked Janeway. And if you watch The Next Generation and then watch Voyager and then watch Deep Space Nine, there's a certain amount of continuity. And that makes them okay. But when you start removing that continuity, all of a sudden it starts being this is not what I'm a fan of. And what I'm a fan of is apparently not going to be in existence anymore because this new thing has usurped it. It's kind of the way a lot of people have rebelled against Star Trek Discovery because it's too different.
Oh, I love Discovery.
Whether you like it or not, that doesn't change that it's super, super different. I know a lot of people who are fans of the Next Generation and the original series who are looking at the Orville and saying this is more Star Trek than Discovery.
And timelines don't match. It's weird. There's an established timeline, and they went to the timeline and changed everything about the timeline.
It's like you have no respect for your fan base when you do things like that. It's like you've made a property, it's well established, everyone loves it, and hey, let's just make something super different for the sake of it.
If I were to create based on my fan base, I wouldn't be creating at all. I would just be catering to other people. And that's not what creativity is about.
And you're saying
not.
Yes, it is creating. I mean, let's put it this way. Okay, if you haven't shown
sure thing, Red.
I've made a new episode. If you've said, okay, here's another episode of the show, and here's a plot line that we haven't done before with the show, but we haven't changed the look, we haven't changed the ships, we haven't changed how the technology works, we haven't changed anything except we're just telling a new story within that new universe. Yes, you're still creating. Of course you are.
Yeah, but you're not creating anything new. You're not creating anything Can I finish? Can I please finish?
No, see, you're fucking wrong. You're not listening to my argument. You're not listening to what I'm saying. A new episode is something new.
I'm super confused as to why the fans of the new show don't matter, though, because you keep talking about fan bases, and then there are people who are perfectly let's go back to Doctor Who. There are people who love the new Doctor. Why do the old fan base?
That's an argument that doesn't relate to what we're really talking about. Don't use Doctor Who.
It's kind of like with my YouTube, okay? I create what I want on my YouTube channel, and I bring the fan base that is attracted to what I make. And here we go! Interrupted me again.
You're not talking about narrative fiction. Talk about narrative fiction, because if you're not talking about narrative fiction, we're having a completely different discussion.
again, the thing about here, I mean, because this is my legitimate question: why does the old fan base supersede the new fan base? If you have people that legitimately like the new Doctor, what makes them
enough with the
less
Doctor.
valuable? I'm sorry. Is this just not a subject that you're comfortable with?
Because you're missing the point. By bringing up the Doctor, apparently we found one example might actually not.
You brought up Doctor Who first, for fuck's sake.
Hi, Red.
Okay, the argument about Star Trek and the argument about Jimmy Olsen makes more sense. The argument about, say, like the new Ghostbusters makes sense. If there's some aspect of the Doctor Who universe where it doesn't fit what I'm talking about, then fine, it's an outlier, but it doesn't help the point.
From the very start, my position has been is that if it changes something that's fundamental about the character, then we shouldn't do it. But if it doesn't change anything about the character, then why does it matter?
Then because it does matter. I'm sorry. It matters to the people who are watching it. It matters to the people who are experiencing it. It matters to the people you're making it for in the first place. That's why it matters.
Again, if it changes nothing about the character,
it changes
that you want to see?
It does change something about the character. I mean, of course it does. If it didn't change anything about the character, we would not be having this discussion.
Then the question is, what does it change about the character?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
If you cannot identify what it changes about the character, then how can you claim that it changes something about the character?
I can identify it. I'm saying that what it is that changed doesn't matter. The fact is that it did change. That's all that matters.
That's so what the content doesn't matter. It's just the fact that is a.
Are you deliberately missing the point?
Huh?
Are you deliberately missing the point?
No, because what I'm saying is if it changes something about the character, then you should be able to identify what that thing is.
I didn't say you can't identify it. I'm saying it doesn't matter.
It didn't matter
it doesn't matter what the specifics are. Jesus fucking Christ, why are you not listening to me?
I'm listening to you.
No, you're not, because every time you make another argument, it ignores what I said.
No.
Every time you make another argument, you've ignored what I said.
You just said it doesn't matter the specifics of what changed.
Yeah, but then you start saying, well, if you can't identify it, I'm saying I can identify it, but what I've identified doesn't matter, because what matters is that it was a change. How is that different? How is that the same as not being able to identify what it was that changed? How is that the same?
Because you're saying I can identify it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter. My argument is that you should be able to identify what it is.
I just said I can identify it, you stupid fucking shit. What the hell's wrong with you?
Whoa. Let's just.
I would prefer that we keep the name calling to a minimum.
So would I.
Start not fitting the description I just gave you. Stop being fucking stupid. Okay? Let me put it this way. Let's say, okay, the color of that character's uniform changed. Don't get wanky about the specifics. Just understand. They changed the color of the uniform. I don't like the color of the uniform. I can identify that the uniform's color changed. So now I'm grouchy about that change. Okay, I identified the change. It doesn't matter if it was the color of the uniform, if they changed their hairstyle, if they change what ship they're on, any of this stuff. Sometimes you look at this change, you go, I didn't like that. And often there's no reason for the change. There was absolutely no reason whatsoever to change, say, for example, the soundtrack in the new Tron movie. And the fact that they did change it is annoying because the original soundtrack was so unique and they made it super generic. Okay, I can point to change after change after change that when you look at it from the eyes of a fan of the original, it was a change that was unwelcome.
Okay, so I would first like to congratulate you because you just said they changed the soundtrack in the original Tron, and that mattered because the original Tron soundtrack was so iconic. That's a change that I would view that shouldn't have been made, right? That because it was iconic to the original.
Okay, see, the problem is you were trying so hard to cram my argument into a mold that you've already made that you're not hearing what I'm saying to you.
What, again, my position is, and always has been, if the change does something that alters the character, the structure, the plot, the view, whatever it is, then perhaps it's one that shouldn't be made. If it doesn't, and we can't explain why the uniform change actually bothers us other than, well, I don't like that color anymore, then what's the big deal?
The big deal is that it changed. That's
because
the big
you're
deal.
never going to keep all your fans happy is the thing.
Okay, but
Anytime
you know
that
what?
you do
But
anything, you're
here's
not
the
gonna
thing.
keep your fans
Here's the
happy.
thing. You know what? If you don't make that change, you don't start the controversy. That's the point.
And,
Why?
but
Like
anytime
the
that you do
change was
anything,
there
you're going to
just
start
for the sake of
controversy.
changing it. The change was there just for the sake of changing it. It didn't add anything either. That's the whole thing. It's like I watch, say, some of the Star Trek movies where it like based on the Next Generation. And for some reason, instead of having that like the same color, the same design, all of a sudden they change where the colors are. They give them these funky shoulder pads and all this stuff. And I'm like, why? Why did you do that? Just because it's a movie? You didn't have to do that. You should have just said, okay, people love the original. Let's keep all of these things from the original and just tell a new story within that universe. Why did they have to make that change? It made no sense. There was no reason to do it.
What about the people that enjoy the new uniforms?
Fuck them. I don't care. That's not the point. That's not the point. Okay, what about the people who love the new uniform? Well, you know what? If they didn't change the design of the uniform in the first place, we wouldn't be having this discussion. This isn't about the people who love the change. This is about the fact that it did change. You're taking it beyond the scope of what I'm talking about. You're taking this beyond the scope of my argument. You're taking it beyond the scope of my argument. And if you can't acknowledge that, if you cannot acknowledge that, there's no point having this discussion.
You're saying I like the old uniforms and therefore they should stay the same.
Yeah.
Right? What about the people that like the new uniforms? What about the directors?
No. See, the thing is, every time you say, what about the people who like the new thing? What about the people who like the change? You're missing my point.
You would have to make a point in order for me to miss it to begin with.
No, I have made a point. I'm not fucking listening to it.
Could you succinctly explain your point other than I like it, so it needs to stay the same?
That is the goddamn point.
Oh, I like it is the point.
I like it. A lot of the fans like it. And then when they change it, it takes the thing we like and makes it not what we like anymore. And that's what matters.
Okay.
I mean, it's like, you know, if you're listening to a band and they radically change the genre of music they're playing, you're like, what the fuck happened? The stuff I like isn't there anymore.
And so I either embrace their change or say, hey, I'm just going to listen to their old stuff.
Except we want more of the new stuff. We want something
it really doesn't bother me that much whenever a band, because I respect the creative vision of a band.
With this argument is you don't care, but some people do.
Absolutely.
Well, then maybe the people who do care might matter just a little fucking bit.
And I'm confused as to why what I think doesn't matter. Because I don't care if a band changes direction. I want their creative vision to stay intact. And if I don't like the genre that they're going with, then I just won't do it.
It didn't stay intact now, did it? It changed. If it hadn't changed, it would have stayed intact.
No, because
now, clearly it's not intact.
Especially whenever we're talking about bands, we're talking about people that maybe feel like their creativity is being stifled in their current genre. Look at what Bring Me the Horizon's been done over the last few years.
Who that is.
So they were essentially a heavy metal band that screamo and things like that. In the last years, they've progressed more towards a poppy feel. Now, I like their old stuff, and I also like their new stuff. And the reason that they did that is because they felt like they were.
What if you didn't like their new stuff?
Then I wouldn't listen to them. But I'm not going to criticize them.
Then where do you get more of the old stuff?
From plenty of other bands.
Okay.
From bands that didn't change, or from new bands that have the same feel.
Well, what if you've got a show like Star Trek, they change it radically, and you want more of the original? What happens then? Where do you go?
Well, I'm not. Look, the thing about it is one, I either just go back and listen, especially whenever we're talking about music and thing. And I'm not a Star Trek fan, so I don't really care what they do with it one way or the other. But especially whenever we're talking about music and stuff, I'll rewatch a freaking show 900 times. Or
Okay.
I'll listen to the same music over and over again.
Where do you get something new that's otherwise the same? Like if you love a TV show, you love the way it is, and you just want to see new plots every week. Where do you go to get those new plots in a universe that hasn't changed on you?
I understand that shows come to an end and that things change over time. And so if I want to
That's not my question.
I mean, it's not like everything's. I mean, you're acting like these things should be eternal. Like they're just not.
Maybe you cannot go anywhere for the same thing.
Just accept it.
I mean, I'm thinking.
I think Red's been trying to butt in here for a few minutes.
Come on in, Red.
Come on in, Red.
So, what I'd say, if you're looking for more of that old stuff set in that thing, in the case of things like Star Trek or Star Wars, you have expanded universes in books and comics that you can get those characters relatively close to what they are in the thing, with new storylines with them, right? So they're still making material for that stuff there. I come at it this kind of whole discussion. I'm a Turtles fan. I'm a Hellboy fan. So we can go with Hellboy stuff. The Del Toro films are loved by just about everybody, and they take drastic turns away from any of the stuff in the comics. And I still love those films as a fan of the comics. What they tend to get, or I think, is as long as they keep, and I'm with Evans on, as long as they keep generally the core of what made these characters what we liked in the first place there with them. The other changes around their lore or different things, different setups, still, it's fine. It's exploring new territory. And, with the Turtles, for example, you have so many different iterations, so many different things. There's some stuff in certain iterations I hate. I don't like that decision, right? And beyond that stuff there. But it's not, it's not like, oh, well, they took a character in a different direction. It's like they reboot this stuff so many years that, the next one will probably get it right or fix it. Or do something different, something more that I like. But it's not, at this point, it's, you know what I mean?
I mean, but see, that's the problem. It's like, take, for example, Transformers. Okay, I loved Transformers when I was younger. And then Michael Bay took the most superficial aspects of the Transformers and then changed so much of what I loved that I was like, these movies are just freaking garbage. And we can talk about Shia LaBeouf being in them, but that's another issue. But then recently, on the way back from Faithless Forum, I watched Bumblebee on the plane. And Optimus Prime looked like Optimus Prime finally. And Bumblebee looked like Bumblebee. Finally, it felt like they had finally made a movie for someone who loved the original. And I mean, the movie was set in the 80s. And it had a lot of callbacks to the original series. And it felt like someone said, hey, remember Transformers from the 80s? You remember being a fan of that? Well, here's more of it just for you. This is your childhood made into movie form. And I was like, that kicked so much ass. I was practically in tears watching it. That's how cool it was. And that's what I want when they take a TV show or a movie or something. I want that familiar, comfortable thing that I loved in entertainment. That's what it should be. And when people make these radical changes, which are, by the way, arbitrary, it's almost offensive.
So is your main issue with the fact that they're taking something, like you just said, that's supposed to be familiar and has an established storyline and making arbitrary changes instead of, if you want to create something new, just creating a new show? Instead of rebooting something that already has a loyal doctrine and fan base and injecting a bunch of bullshit changes into it to make a new story when it's not a new story.
Exactly. I mean, reboots and remakes and reimaginings are abominations. You should just, if you're going to be a creator, if you're going to create something new, create something that's 100% original instead of taking something that people love and fucking nostril raping it into being something that it's not.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, that's a no-brainer.
don't agree with every single thing, but in general, I do agree with like me and my brother were actually recently having this conversation. I'm like, why is every single thing that's coming out a fucking reboot? Why? Like, it's just irritating to me personally. Like, if you want to make a reboot, okay, that's cool, but you're gonna piss a lot of people off if that reboot does not stick to what it's supposed to stick to. If you want to make a new show, make a new show. You don't have to call it Star Trek. You don't have to call it whatever. Like, just make a new show.
It would not have taken a lot of effort to take that rebooted Battlestar Galactica and make it something that's 100% its own. And the only reason they put that Battlestar Galactica name on it was to try and make money off of the original. That's it. They thought it was easy money. They thought it would draw in a fan base in a way that I don't know, calling it like Fight Nova Universal or some shit wouldn't. You know,
Right.
that's the only
Well,
reason
that's
they-
lazy. I agree.
Wouldn't have elicited the same publicity.
Yeah, I mean, that's why everything's a remake and a reboot now, is they think it's easy money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It
agree,
is.
definitely. And okay, that's a problem in the sense that creativity is gone. Because if you're taking the same name and just putting different clothes on it, you're really not creating anything new.
Exactly.
Now, Jen Morgan said something interesting in all caps. There's a black man hosting Twilight Zone. Now, that sort of thing, you've got to, Rod Serling is, no more. So you can't have any more of him.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
so
and
The new Star Trek. Twilight so far. What I've seen of it.
but that's also different. I mean, because that's a host of a show. It's
right.
not character. It's not like a storyline. It's like Rod Serling just introduced the next storyline.
Right.
And every episode was a completely new, original, unto itself thing.
Mhm.
It's not the same as taking a character and completely flipping something about them that doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
For that change.
Turning James T. Kirk into an Andromedian would definitely not be a good thing in anybody's universe. I'm sorry. You're trying to make the same character something completely. Now, introducing an Andromedian captain of a starship, I've got no problem with that. No.
I mean, that's why I thought Janeway kicked ass. Is like, okay, we have ourselves a female captain, but it's not the Enterprise. It's a completely new ship. She gets to be her own thing completely. I mean, that's why I certainly have no objection whatsoever to, say, Cisco commanding Deep Space Nine, because they took the same universe and said, we're not radically changing what you already love. We're just showing a different part of it. This is a different place. That's an acceptable change in every way.
Reality, yeah.
And it's kind of like oh gosh, I had an example and I don't remember. There was something I was gonna
But here, hold on.
Oh no, I remember. The Orville. That's it. The Orville. I am in a lot of Orville fan groups on Facebook. And it seems like 9 out of every 10 posts now is, hey, let's retread an episode from Star Trek and have a Star Trek guest star in season 3. That would kick so much ass. And I'm sitting there going, can't the Orville be its own thing? I mean, why does it have to basically be here? Let's parody and satire Star Trek. It doesn't have to.
Yeah. No, I don't know that it's worth beating anybody over the head over it, but yeah, I get your point.
Well, I mean, again, but here, my point from the very get-go has been if it changes something fundamental about the character, then we don't do it. I mean, there were plenty of people that didn't like Janeway, right?
But that didn't change anything about a character. There was no change there.
I agree. Again, but then there are people that are saying, well, but hold on just a second. I want my captain to be so-and-so. I want this person to be so-and-so. I agree that they did it better. And like, again, my point is if it changes something fundamental about the plot, about the character, then don't do it. That's something that we don't need to do, especially whenever you're talking about straight remakes, right? Whenever you're talking about we're going to remake The Lion King, it's not a sequel, it's not a direction, it's not a spinoff, it's not an AU. This is a remake, and then we change a bunch of stuff up about it. That's not a remake. I mean, I'm in
Yeah.
complete agreement here.
Absolutely. One I can name that was totally ruined was the remake of Manchurian Candidate. Sorry, it just didn't work.
I never saw. I didn't even know there was a remake of that.
With Denzel Washington, and I'm trying to remember who. It was set in as part of the Iraq War, and
Oh,
and the
Yeah.
whole Manchurian Candidate thing was wrapped up in the title, where you had Korean operatives trying to, working for the Chinese, trying to influence an American election. Gee, doesn't that sound familiar?
Yeah.
And yeah,
So like the remake of Red Dawn, for example, same thing.
Yeah, and it okay, maybe I'm just being picky, but to me it just did not work. And the undertones in the in the 19 oh god, what was it, 1960? The one with Frank Sinatra and Ava Gardner and all that shit. I'm sorry, not Ava Gardner. Murder, She Wrote. What the hell? Angela Lansbury. The undertones that were written in, they were not as striking as they were in the novel, but they were there if you knew that they were there. If you had read the book, you would know, and yeah, the stuff going on there. So yeah, that it was totally ruined when it was remade. So many of them are.
The remakes of It that they're doing right now. It's like, okay, I am a weapons grade fan of the 80s, you may have noticed.
Really?
But the fact that they time shifted It so that the beginning started in the 80s, I'm like, that's not an acceptable change. I want to see the book on screen. That's 100% of what I want to see. If you radically change it like that, it's not okay.
Yeah, and then I'm trying to think. I lost. I was thinking John Carpenter's Thing, but I don't know if that's that much different from one to the.
Wait, did they remake that? Did they remake that?
No, John Carpenter's The Thing was a remake of The Thing. 20 some years earlier.
Well, okay. I mean, I've had arguments with people about what makes something science fiction, what makes something fantasy, and I always cite Seven Samurai and The Magnificent Seven and Battle Beyond the Stars, because they're all the same story, but none of them pretend to be like the original. None of them. They're all, even if they're the same story, they're all different, and they don't like it's not Seven Samurai in like the West. It's always, we are cowboys. We've always been cowboys. That's what we're gonna be. It's like it's not gonna piss off the fan base because it's not usurping the original.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with like Star Trek Discovery is like CBS or whoever's making it has flat out stated, yeah, the old canon is dead now. This is what you're getting. And it's like, well, that's just a big fuck you to the original fan base, isn't it? You know? I mean, it's just
like call it something different.
Yeah, they could have waited until the original fan base was dead.
Star Trek, because it's not. You've deviated from what is Star Trek.
Yeah. And I mean, I know some people are saying, well, we have to be creators and we have to let creators have their own creation. Well, I'm sorry, but when it comes to pop culture, no, you don't.
Me personally, Star Trek is with a male captain, and so whenever Janeway came in, I'm just done there. I mean, but because that really is the same argument.
No, it's not.
Star Trek to me, because my classic Star Trek had a male captain, and so because it's a female captain, then I don't like it anymore.
Same argument because it's a spin-off. That's why it's different. It's a spin-off because TNG still gives you that male captain. It doesn't take anything away from your fan base. It's like I was saying with Doctor Who.
Yeah, but what if I wanted to watch a spin-off with a male captain?
Well, then watch Deep
Because-
Space Nine. It's still Star Trek.
But
It's still
I
the
want to
same
watch another one.
universe.
With
Okay,
a
Evans,
thing.
I think I can.
See, now you're just being a fucking dick and you know it. Okay?
Look, because the
Evans.
argument.
You're taking my argument and you're strawmanning the fuck out of it. And if you don't know that, you're an idiot. If you know that, you're an
Look.
asshole. Pick one.
Okay,
I'm not going to sit here and be repeatedly called names by somebody.
Well,
we can have a conversation. We can have an
whoa,
argument.
Whoa,
but-
easy. Am I going to have to end this early?
You are acting like a jackass.
Look. The
No,
thing
you-
about it is the
it's a
arguments
fair
that you're
argument.
bringing forward in a lot of cases are the arguments that you're bringing forward in a lot of cases are based around what I think that the series should be, which is fine. I have no problem with that. But then again, if that argument is valid, then it's valid whenever people say, "Well, I like the new uniforms, and I like this, and I like the."
No, that's not valid. That's not valid because you're saying that the new thing is I don't know how to explain it exactly, but taking the new thing that they've made, all the changes that they've made are things that should not have happened in the first place. When you start saying, "Oh, people love the changes," well, that doesn't matter. That's not the point. You're missing the point 100%. And I don't know why you keep bringing it up when I tell you that your argument fundamentally misunderstands mine.
But your argument is that you like it to be authentic.
Yes, but here's the thing, is if the new uniforms had been all that ever existed, if Star Trek Discovery was 100% the beginning of Star Trek, and then they changed it to TNG, I'd probably still be just as pissed. Why? Because Discovery would have been the original. And that's the point, is that what's original is what matters. It has precedence.
Yeah.
But again,
Yeah, I
that's
don't know
because
if I don't know if this is worth having a hot war over. Is it?
Well,
I'm not.
Look at all of my shelves. If you were looking at what I call my geek shelf that's covered in Tron and Babylon 5 and Fallout and all that stuff, you know that fandom is important to me.
Oh, yes, I do know that. I do know that it is important to you.
If someone starts acting like a jackass about it, I'm gonna defend it. I'm gonna defend it. I'm sorry. It matters. It matters a great deal.
I don't think he's trying to be a jackass. I just think
I
you
don't
guys
either.
are having a miscommunication about two very different.
No, I'm not attempting to be a jackass here, and there are things that I
Well,
would
you're
definitely.
managing it.
And
Well, you're managing it, so
yeah,
maybe you
and
want to check
Oh,
out what
come
you're
on,
saying
come
and
on.
how you're saying it, and modify it just a little bit.
I'm sorry. Look, I'm not going to take a
All-
rebuke about
all
my attitude
I'm-
from somebody that's insulted me twice and called me names.
All
That
I'm
is something that's
hearing-
totally unnecessary.
All I'm
well,
hearing
maybe
is
is it possible that you've deserved it?
kids, hang on. All I'm hearing is one person disagreeing with another over something that really, Kate, is not earth-shattering. It is not the Iraq War or anything like that.
See, that's the thing, though, is it matters that much to me. All right, it's
I know it
important.
does. Yeah.
Well, then trying to minimize it by saying it's not the Iraq War is kind of insulting.
Well,
But they are fundamentally different topics, right? We're talking about personal likes.
but-
I don't like Star Trek, and so
Oh.
that's one of those personal things. I understand what
Well,
Lavender Lady's getting at
you don't-
because these
You're not
are.
invested in it. I am. So minimizing it like that by not recognizing my personal investment into it is minimizing something that's very important to
Yeah,
me.
but that's just it.
And
It's
maybe
a
that's
personal
maybe that's why
investment.
but that's the thing, is maybe that's why I'm telling you you're being a jackass, is because you're minimizing it. You're treating it like it doesn't matter. Like my position doesn't matter. What's important to me doesn't matter because
I've
it
totally
doesn't matter.
agreed
to me.
on with you.
it matters.
in the cases of Tron, and again, but I think we're a lot closer on this than you're wanting to make out with here, because again, I agreed in the case of Tron, in the case of the guy in the Supergirl story, and in the cases of if we were to make Captain Kirk into something else that Captain Kirk is not. Those are all changes that I agree that shouldn't happen. I agree that remakes that true remakes should be faithful to the originals. If it's a spinoff, if it's a sequel, I think that some creative liberties could be. But again, these are all matters of opinion and personal, whether we like it or whether we don't like it. And again, and I understand what Lavender Lady's trying to say, because again, these are all things that matter personally to us.
Yeah,
I believe that pizza shouldn't have pineapples on it. There are people that do.
I
may be very invested, but I'm not upset about any of this.
Clearly I am, and maybe you should take that on board. Maybe you should actually give a flying fuck about my position, my point of view, and how much it matters to me. Because right now you're acting like it doesn't matter at all, and I'm finding that to be.
I fully comprehend that this matters greatly to you.
Yeah, and I'm.
Well, you're not acting like it. You're not acting like it.
I am very likely doing a very, very bad job of making my point. The one thing that comes to my mind, living here in Pittsburgh, I remember a news story not that long ago of somebody sitting in a diner made a comment about not exactly appreciating the Steelers or one of the players on that team or something like that. And when he went into the crapper, he got himself killed over that. And what I don't want is this discussion turning into something like that. Because I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers are worth killing anybody over, no matter who you are, no matter where you live. And I mean, there's some things that sometimes people react more than is indicated. Am I saying it correctly?
Well,
yeah, no, I understand totally what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, but it matters a great deal to me. It matters a lot. I mean, you have to understand how much these things have inspired my own life, my own creativity. I mean, right now I'm working on this big, huge animation project that, let's face it, was inspired by all the sci-fi I've been into. This is a huge part of my life, and minimizing it does kind of make me want to hurt you.
I can't imagine ever actually hurting somebody or wanting to hurt somebody over something that's a personal preference.
I don't want. No, I don't want
right
to.
Now, you hurt me right now.
I don't.
Okay.
Look, we're having a discussion, though. This is the thing. I mean, we're all involved in these discussions, right? The onus is on us to not get overly upset whenever somebody has a difference of opinion than us.
See, that's the thing. It's more than just a difference of opinion. Right now, you are actually insulting a fundamental part of my life. And
what have I insulted as a part of your life?
Fuck's sake, see, that's just it. You don't see it, no matter how many different times and ways I've explained.
What fundamental part of your life have I insulted?
Well, I've already explained it to you. If you don't,
because you've called me a fucking idiot.
Get it already.
I mean,
if you don't get it already, you're not going to. I mean, that's just all there is to it. I've explained it already. I've explained it multiple times, and you don't seem to understand it. And
your explanation is.
Try again? Why should I try again? If
let me see if I can understand. Let me see if I can understand your explanation. See if I can relate your argument back to you. If this is something that you actually want to do, I mean, we can drop this discussion in a heartbeat. I'm not invested in this at all. But from what I understand is that the classic series are very meaningful to you because that's what you grew up on. They matter a lot to you, and you care very much about things maintaining true to the original universe. That whenever people do remakes, that they be true to the originals, and that they not make any wild sweeping changes because that's something that is meaningful to you in a certain time in a certain place. Am I roughly approximating where you're at?
More than that, but yeah, that's part of it.
Because you like this certain set of things. You're deeply invested in these characters, and you're deeply invested in these characters to be this certain way. Because that's what you like.
When they change it, it's a big old fuck you. We don't care about you anymore.
Okay, and so again, as my position's been from the original, if it changes fundamental parts.
See,
Okay. Then let's just stop having this discussion, because as soon as
when they change fundamental parts again, you fundamentally don't understand what I've said to you. I mean, you're saying that's your opinion, that's your position. Fine, mine's different, and you're not acknowledging that it's different.
I'm totally acknowledging that it's different.
No, but see, you're not.
I just spent 5 minutes explaining.
You're not actually empathizing, okay?
Because I hold a different opinion, and that's what we're trying to have a discussion about. Why is your opinion more valid than mine?
Well, because I'm more invested, that's why. Because clearly, by your own admission, you don't care that much. I do.
I definitely don't care about Star Trek that much.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. If you don't care that much, then honestly, this isn't particularly relevant to you, that your opinion matters less because it'll have less effect on the people who do care more.
There are series and things like that I'm incredibly invested in, such as Star Wars and others, right?
Right.
That in some cases I'm fine with the creative liberties that are taken, and in some cases I take issue with the liberties that are taken. And so it's one of those things that I feel like I'm in the same boat as Red. Is there are things that I enjoy very much that I can overlook creative differences with between directors and characters and things like that, such as like the Marvel films and various other things that I can recognize that they're going in a new direction, and as long as they keep certain plot points and things like that, I'm perfectly happy. And that's essentially been the point that I've been trying to make from the get-go.
Well,
the
problem is that this point you're trying to make from the get-go does not empathize with my position and understand why I'm going to radically disagree with it.
Well, I have no problem with radical disagreement.
Well, then why?
I radically, but because I find these discussions to be interesting.
Well,
because this is what we do. I mean, I do this with theists all the time, and people and philosophical discussions and things like that. Like these, having discussions with people that have different opinions and different views and things like that helps me sharpen my views of things. That's why I'm not like super upset and calling people names.
Yeah, well, then, like I said, you can't empathize. You don't understand.
That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, that's a really ridiculous
it's not
statement.
Ridiculous at all. It's not ridiculous at all. Because I mean, I honestly don't see you trying to understand more than the like rote details. I don't see you actually saying like not just that you understand it, but that you think that it's worth something. I don't see you seeing value in this position at all.
Did I not agree with you on certain cases?
Well, see, that it's not just what you've agreed with, it's also how and why.
The thing, because I'm agreeing with you, especially on certain cases, whenever we're changing, and I dare to say it again, but fundamental things about the characters.
But see, that's the thing.
Those are things. Those are things that we shouldn't.
Fundamental. That's the problem. Is that you don't seem to understand that part of it. That even sometimes superficial changes are like, what the fuck? What did you do? Why did you do that? It makes no sense. It's pointless, and it's basically, like I said, just a big old fuck you. There's no reason for it, and so. Sometimes almost the fact that it's not fundamental will be just as bad.
I don't know. That just
I
seems
don't know either.
I mean, I'll go with something here on the 2014 Turtles reboot, the Platinum Dunes did, and the garish, god-awful designs for the Turtles, right? I didn't like those, right? But had the movie been good or stuck to anything worthwhile in the thing, you can live with those changes, right? They're dumb changes. They're bad. It's bad design. It's ugly and everything else. The problem with that movie was it was fucking awful. And the people who were making it had no fucking clue about why people like these characters and just made a mess of a film, right? That was the issue with that film. I mean, had it been something that paid all the tribute, paid all the an understanding of what the characters were, and was a good film, the garish designs and stuff and they still had those garish designs. They're garish designs or something. I gotta, all right, that's fine, right? I mean, it seems weird that the love for your characters is strictly for if a change of a color or whatever and stuff there.
Well, it's not strictly that. That's just
in some cases that's how ridiculous some of these changes are that you're complaining about are.
Yeah,
right?
the color of a uniform.
You ran for the like Turtles. Everybody knows in the comics, red masks. That's it, and they have the rainbow masks ever since the Fred Wolf cartoon, right?
Well, and I can see why they would do that, just because it's hard to distinguish from one character to the other if they all look exactly the same, because they do. I mean, if you look at the cartoon, like the 80s cartoon, if they weren't holding their weapons and if their masks weren't different colors, you could not tell one from the other. It would be impossible. There's nothing different about them in any other way. So, yeah, I mean, I can almost understand is just, we need to have some sort of way to distinguish which turtle is which. And that I can almost understand. It might have been annoying, but it makes a certain amount of sense because it's necessary. It's a necessary change. But a lot of the changes that you'll see in other things are in no way necessary. It's like they were done just for the sake of it.
Well, so the rainbow bandanas weren't a necessary change. Right. I mean, a simple way to handle that is variation in body shape. Or
they could have done that too.
And stuff like that. You fit kind of their body shapes to the personalities that you're running with instead of just the stock same ones over with. So this is something we could argue just as vehemently about some of the other things you're arguing about. Details of the change from the red bandanas to the rainbow.
But it wasn't like a lot of the things I'm talking about that have changed are just not necessary. There was no reason to do it.
Yeah, and there was no reason to change the design of the bandanas.
Yes, there was. Again, I just told you what the reason was. This is just proof you're not listening to me.
No.
I told you the reason why it was necessary, and now you're like, there's no reason to change it. Well, I just told you why there was a reason to change it.
And somebody might, but the problem is that somebody might say that, well, it was necessary to update the style of the uniforms so that we appealed. Oh, here we go. Because it makes them more visually appealing, especially to newer audiences.
Except they didn't.
So therefore, it is necessary.
They didn't.
I like that.
No. See, here's that is not the same thing that I'm talking about. That's not the same thing at all.
Again, what makes you the arbiter of what is and isn't necessary? There are plenty of people that the red bandanas didn't have a problem with. The same arguments that you're using here can be applied to the red bandanas. It's just that you believe that it's necessary.
No, you fundamentally missed my point. 100%. The reason the bandana changes were necessary was to be able to visually distinguish one character from another. Because without the change, if they were all red bandanas and if you couldn't see their weapons, you could not tell which was which.
They were running around with their initials on their belt buckle.
But they changed the design of the Starfleet uniforms is not necessary in that same way. Because you will be able to tell who is who from their hair, from their height, from their skin color, etc. They are not animated characters that have exactly the same physical design that where it would be it would make watching it difficult because you couldn't tell who was who. It is not the same thing, and you're trying to act like they are.
Well, and given the number of animation errors that the original cartoon is known for, they're swap bandanas all the time.
Well, if they fucked up, they fucked up. But that's.
I mean, they're like ridiculously well known for how bad that is with the bandanas changing colors and stuff.
Well, okay, but the point is that there is a good argument for why they should be changed. There is no good argument for why a Starfleet uniform design should change.
According to you, right?
Yeah. No, not according to me. I'm saying what function within the universe itself, like how does it help watching the show to change the design? What benefit is gained? Just in terms of like in the same way that being able to distinguish one character from another in Ninja Turtles is changing a Starfleet uniform also useful?
So we're not arguing that change could be is the exact same change for that, and we're not arguing that it's on the same level of that change. But you can go from an aesthetic point of view if you want it. So I think of some old sci-fi that they update now that's got a lot of the Z rust is the term they give. That's just
I have no idea what the hell you're saying to me right now. Everything
you don't know
said,
what Z rust is.
I've not heard that term before. No.
Oh, it's basically for stuff that is designed in a particular period of time, projecting out the future that is ridiculous once we're at the future part. So that's what the Z rust is. So you think some of like the old school sci-fi spacesuits and stuff like that are silly and ridiculous, right? So if you want to go for that Z rust aesthetic and that stuff there, if you want to go say aesthetically, you want to get something closer to reality in how you present it, from a show in the 60s to a show being made now, that's a reason and a necessary, you could argue just as necessary as the bandana change to make this aesthetic feel more real. Now, you may not
I completely disagree with what you just said. I completely disagree.
I don't understand how.
Well, like this. Okay, number one, realism was not the issue with the bandanas. It was just the ability to identify one character from another. If you want to make a show with a radically unrealistic spacesuit design, go ahead, no problem. I mean, because it's fiction. Go ahead. I mean, I can, but that doesn't help anything to say, well, it's not realistic enough, so it shouldn't happen. It shouldn't look like that. It's not the same thing at all. It's not. I don't know how you can make that comparison.
It's not we're talking about good arguments for a necessary change. All right, and you're stuck very tunnel vision on this one specific example. So if it's not 100% like this example, then it can't ever qualify as necessary.
You are making a category error. You are not talking about the same thing I'm talking about. No, seriously, you're not talking about the same thing. Your argument is unrelated to mine.
It is by no means unrelated to your argument.
Yes, it is. And the fact that you're saying it's not unrelated means you don't understand my argument.
You can keep asserting that, but that's just bullshit.
No, it's not bullshit.
I understand your argument
just fine. No, right? well, your example is not. It misses my point completely.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
We're addressing your point about necessary change.
Well, I get to tell you
one set of change, which on the same level of
my point. It's not the same thing.
Oh my god!
It's not the same thing. It's not.
We're addressing necessary change here.
But it's not a necessary change to say those spacesuits have to be realistic. If someone wanted to make a show that was very retro, where they were using those same unrealistic designs because, hey, it's a fun aesthetic, that's not the same thing as saying that we have to change these colors so that you can tell one character from another. It's just plain not the same.
We're talking about necessary change. They can make one with a certain aesthetic, but if they take an old sci-fi that has a very Z-Rust look, silly, goofy thing, and they want to reboot it, remake, whatever, and they said, well, we want to go with a better aesthetic, not something that looks so outdated.
But it's not. Well,
it's a necessary change.
Better. You just said better. It's not necessarily better. It's just different for no good reason.
Well, I mean, a lot of the old sci-fi suits are really silly and ridiculous. No, I get it just fine. But
clearly you don't. If your examples are any indication.
My God, I feel like this is you on the place again with the atheism discussion. It's just asserting bullshit that it just isn't the case.
No. See, and that's the way I feel about what you're saying. Don't put all this on me. This is the same. You're being just as obstinate.
I am not. I'm trying to work.
Yes, you are.
No, he's not.
You can't just say no. I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Like my objection to what you're saying doesn't matter. You can't do that.
You're not getting it. You're not getting it. You're not getting it. I can keep reasserting your same bullshit right back at you, Kate.
No, but
Yeah.
see, when I say
No,
I say
it's
you're not
not.
getting it,
You
here's the
get it,
thing.
you're
If I
trying to
tell
work
you,
with
if
your
I tell
argument
you
and
you're
you're
not
trying to
getting it,
not
when I
television.
explain how and why you're not getting it, you're not taking that on board and going, "Oh, I see." There's no
But-
"Oh, I see."
Because I see what you're trying to get at, and we're trying to deal with what your argument is and address it. And you're
But you're not addressing it, you dumbass.
Guys, let's
Oh, here
take
we
it
go.
easy,
If
please.
I tell you you're not addressing it, is there a chance that you're not addressing it? Is there a chance that you've gotten it wrong? Is that something you're willing to consider?
Can I ask you a
Guys,
question
Yes
here?
or no? Is that something you're willing to consider? That
I'm willing
maybe,
to consider,
just
but in this
maybe,
case,
I'm
I'm not.
right when I tell you you're
Because-
wrong. Is
No,
that possible?
I'm not getting your argument wrong. We have not been getting your argument wrong.
Yes,
we
you
understand your
have.
argument.
You have gotten my argument
Okay.
wrong. Now, if you're not willing to accept that as a possibility, then yes, you're being obstinate. Yes, you're being as unwilling to talk or compromise as you claim I am.
I
Now,
think that
is
you need
there
to take a
any
lot of your.
possibility in the world that you're willing to consider that you've misunderstood? Is that anything you're willing to consider?
We've repeated your argument back to you, and you've said you've agreed with it. So we understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
and what we're trying to address fits with what you're saying. You just don't want to accept this because you want to sit in your tunnel vision nerd way over it.
Miss the point. They're off target. Your counter examples are off target. Now, why aren't you willing to accept that?
But the counter
They're
examples
not.
aren't off target. We're talking about necessary change.
Yeah, we're talking about necessary change to fit.
Apparently you're not willing to consider that you might be wrong. You're not. You're not willing to consider.
You're not willing to consider you might be wrong.
Look,
I mean, if anybody watches, you're
If I-
the obstinate one in this
my
conversation.
argument. Go, oh,
Evans
no,
and I
I-
have been trying to work with you on it.
No,
and
no,
work through it.
Yeah, here's the thing. Okay.
If I tell you you've
Okay.
misunderstood
Okay.
and you say, no, I haven't, no, I haven't, no, I haven't,
Okay.
clearly there is no
We
possibility.
go back and repeat your argument. You say you agree. So it's
Guys.
clear we understand your
Clearly,
argument.
I don't agree
All right.
100%.
Guys.
Because when I say I agree, and then you completely change your argument, and I say now you've misunderstood.
We haven't
Apparently,
completely changed your
you
argument.
don't
We're talking
understand
about
what I was
necessary
doing.
change. We're trying to work with your
All right.
argument about,
No,
hey,
you're
this is
not
a
working-
Hey,
necessary
I'm
People-
telling
change.
you, you're not
Yeah.
working with my argument.
Examples
I'm
of
telling you,
other
you're not working
necessary
with my argument.
changes.
I'm
and-
telling you, you're
Yeah.
not working with my
Hey,
argument. You're not.
everybody calm down here for a second.
Yeah, please.
Settle- hey,
Guys,
What the
guys,
fuck is wrong with you?
guys, hey, can I? This is much like arguing with an atheist. I mean, a rock. I'm done here because we're trying to work within the framework of your argument, within necessary change. Hold
And
on, before you go into another tirade, because you can have this sucker, because I'm fixing to leave because this is ridiculous. We're arguing within the framework of your
No, you're
argument,
not.
trying.
you're
Well,
not.
keep saying that doesn't make it true.
Well,
I'm
except
gonna-
that maybe it is
Y'all
fucking
have a
true.
wonderful afternoon.
I'm gonna be
I
the
am
bad
done
guy
arguing with-
here.
No, no, no.
Maybe
I
if
am-
I
Can
tell
I-
you,
can I
you've
please
gone out
say
to
one
I have a
thing?
show
my
coming up. I'm
arguments,
going to
but
wrap
maybe
this
you
up
should listen
anyway.
to me. Maybe you should
Yeah.
listen when I tell you you've stepped outside the bounds of
I-
my arguments.
I am unwilling to continue this discussion, especially in light of being repeatedly called stupid.
Well, you are.
And yep, see, that's real mature. Okay, you're
Oh, yeah. Well, it's real mature to not listen to somebody when they say you've gotten it wrong. I mean, my goodness. How can I have a discussion with someone who won't go, oh, okay, I've misunderstood? How? I mean, apparently the only person who's being unreasonable here is me, even though when I point out, hey, you've gotten something wrong, you won't acknowledge it.
Unfortunately, I don't think a compromise is going to be reached because you guys are having two different conversations, and I mean, I can hear that, I can clearly see that. So,
Well,
I don't know what else to
I
say.
I don't think we are, but we'll
Well,
let
see,
Diana
that's it. I don't
answer.
think we are. I don't think we are. Someone else sees that we are, and I say that we are. So clearly, you're the obstinate one here.
You got someone trying to play peacemaker, all right? So we'll let Diana finish up here, and I'm gonna hop out. Thanks for having me, Diana. Lovely to see you again. Talk to you.
Love you, sweetie. Take care.
Yeah.
Oh my, oh my.
God.
Yeah, I get the point that this is very important to you. I know it is. And it's interesting to see how important. God, this must be a fundamental part of your being.
Well, have you seen the tattoos?
Yeah, they are burned.
Okay.
They are burned into my memory.
Have you seen the shelves of DVDs? Have you seen the shelf with all the action figures and shit on it? Yeah, this is important.
It's hard. It's hard.
Speaking as someone who wants to create this stuff myself, if someone like I've okay, V for Vendetta, like V for Vendetta and Watchmen both started out as comic books, as graphic novels by the same guy, and when they made V for Vendetta into a movie, they changed almost every damn thing, and he was so pissed off that he refused to even watch Watchmen, which came out second, which was honestly pretty true to the comic. They made a couple of changes, and some of them I found annoying. But the fact is that they tried to remain really true. But I can totally understand, like, if I created something, some like fictional property like that, and then someone radically changed it when they made a movie version of it, I'd be fucking frothing. And so, speaking as a fan of that sort of thing, yeah, it's the same kind of deal. Is it matters a lot. My fiction matters a lot to me.
I guess it's difficult for me to. I'll use the word appreciate, but that's not what I'm after. I'm a very non-confrontational person, so it's very hard for me to, I guess I'll say, understand the degree to which you, or to which those guys in the diner get riled. I know it's there. I do appreciate it in the sense that it's part of you. But
well, that, and I also don't suffer fools gladly. And I'm sorry, but Faithless Southerner was being an ass. And so was the other guy, whoever the hell his name was. I mean, if someone tells you, you've gotten my argument wrong, and they insist, no, I haven't, no, I haven't, no, I haven't, they sound like a theist. I mean, it's like you can present fact after fact after fact at them. You can show them the logical analysis back and forth. But when they say, nah, I don't agree. I don't think that you're right in any way. And I don't care about the goddamn facts. And I don't care about your position, which is what they were doing. I mean, what are you supposed to do?
I don't think he was trying to be an ass. Again, you guys were just having two different conversations. And I mean, I don't think you can't really reach a good conclusion whenever both people are having two different conversations, but they think they're on the same page and they're really not. Well, you're on the same page on like details. And that's
I knew we
say, but
I knew we weren't on the same page. They just wouldn't accept that. I kept trying to tell them we're not on the same page, and they wouldn't accept it. And then they acted like it's all my fault. I mean, I tried to find a way to bring us into the same path so that we were at the same table having the same discussion, and they wouldn't even allow it.
I think because you do have a lot more passion and into the subject, it just kind of, and obviously he doesn't, so it just kind of,
and you know what,
the point at which there's not really much that they can't add any more to it, and you can't add any more to it, so it's just kind of, it's at an impasse. It just is what it is.
No, I don't know. I just honestly, I think they were just, I don't know. They refused to try to see what I was saying. I mean, they claim they were, but part of being willing to see what someone else is saying is being willing to admit you've gotten what they're saying wrong. And you know, I mean, like giving someone a chance to say that's not what I meant, and then to say, okay, what did you mean? And they weren't willing to do that. And I've encountered way too many people who are like that. And it's just, I'm like I say, I don't suffer fools gladly. And that's being a fool, is refusing to, like, I mean, if there are theists out there who say, like, that's not the way I believe my religion, I recognize other people do, but this is what I believe, I'm willing to say, okay, well, even if that's not what's in your scripture, what do you believe, so I can address your argument? They weren't doing that.
Yeah. Well,
Okay,
I mean,
I understand the argument thing. Yeah, it's. I guess it can. I guess it can feel like they're intentionally not getting it. That I get.
Well, and what's this? And Darren, you from whatever the fuck your name is. This isn't a matter of not agreeing fully. They tried to address my argument in ways that did not address my argument. Like, I mean, it's one thing to disagree. It's another thing to disagree with something I haven't said.
Okay, yeah.
And I mean, I'm sorry, but when I encounter people who go, no, I know exactly what you said, you know, and I say, no, you didn't. Yes, I did. Well, which one of us is fucking right there? You know? I mean, I think I know what I said and what I meant better than anybody else does.
Yeah, I'll grant you that. I will indeed.
You know, I mean, I get a lot of like theists trying to tell me what I, as an atheist, believe. You know, you believe the universe came from nothing. You believe that like this, that, or the other thing because you're an atheist. You believe that, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that what I believe is for me to tell you, and not the other way around. They were acting like that kind of theist.
Okay. Yeah, as I say, it's. I know it's. Part of it's a problem with me because I'm non-confrontational, if you will. I mean, I'm afraid of confrontation. Let me put it to you that way. Okay,
Yeah,
that's the way I grew up.
yeah.
So I guess that was part of the way I reacted.
And what Riley S. there says, what you say and what you mean are usually not exactly the same thing. That's the shortcoming of language, and that's true. I completely disagree. But when people won't let you amend what you've said, if people insist that their first interpretation of what you said is what you meant, then they're not being honest. They're arguing dishonestly.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you repeat my argument back to me and I agree, but then you start making an argument that like misunderstands what I said, I'm sorry, but you can repeat something to somebody and still get it wrong. I mean, you know, I've had times where someone has tried to give me instructions on how to say work a computer in some way, like or you know, here's a bit of a program that you don't understand yet, let me explain how to do it. And I say, oh, you mean click this, that, and the other thing? And they go, no, I heard, I understand where you misunderstood what I said. It's this and this, not that and that. And I will listen to them because what they said and what I heard weren't the same thing, and I got it wrong, so let me amend my understanding of what you said. And they weren't doing that. They wouldn't let me say, they wouldn't let me correct what I had said. They were strawmanning the hell out of me. And I have had that discussion with like theists before, where it's just you know, they insist that you stick to the very first thing you said, even if you expressed yourself a little badly or inaccurately, or you didn't quite have your thoughts 100% together. That's why I like to avoid live debate with theists, why I'd rather respond like video to video, because I'm not always right there, right in the moment with everything completely organized. You know, and oftentimes you'll misspeak yourself a little bit in a debate, and someone will insist that you stick to the way you didn't express the way you expressed yourself badly,
Right.
And then if you try to say, okay, that's not quite what I meant, they accuse you of moving the goalposts. They accuse you of all kinds of things, and it's dishonest as fuck. That's why I had this big disagreement with Steve McRae a while back, because I honestly thought that he was going to like, he insisted on a yes/no answer to a question. And I sensed a trap in that. And I said that there was nuance, that I couldn't give him a fundamental, always an unchanging yes or no, and he wouldn't accept it. And I was like, okay, then this conversation is clearly intended to make me say something I don't mean. And honestly, that's not quite what was going on here, because they weren't trying to trap me into anything. I know that, but it was like I was not allowed to have the chance to clarify when I was misunderstood. And I was being misunderstood, but they insisted I wasn't. They insisted they completely 100% got me right. And like, people are in the chat are accusing me of being arrogant, but how arrogant is that? To say, no, we know what you're saying, and you don't get to tell us any more about it. That we're going to argue with the very first thing that not only that you said, but the way we interpreted it. It's, you want to talk about arrogant? That's fucking arrogant.
Yeah. Well, like I said, by that point, I think that impasse had already been reached, and it just took a divergence to the point where it wasn't going to come back into the center.
It could have. They just had to be a little more accommodating of their own mistakes.
That's something I think everybody needs to do.
Agreed.
But I guess I'm going to kind of be the bad guy here, because it's about 6 minutes to 3, and I have another show tonight at 5 p.m. Kate, did you pick that one up that I do have another show tonight?
I did not know that. No.
Yeah.
Aaron Ra's going to be with me. We're going to be talking about the upcoming protest against Ken Ham's Ark Park.
Wait, rewind. Is Ark? Oh, Ark. I thought you said art. Okay.
No,
I gotcha.
Ark Park. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you feel like coming on down, please do.
Wait, what do you mean? Are you saying I should guest with Aaron Ra or just watch?
Well, I mean, okay. First of all, it'll be the watching thing, and if he's around, if he wants to stick around for a while, I'd love to have him on an after show. I'd love to have you on the panel for the after show. If you would.
I mean, Aaron Ra's awesome.
Yes, he is, absolutely.
If anyone doesn't know that, you should, because
I love Aaron Ra.
Yeah, I had the immense honor of being able to work with him a couple of times back when I was working with NCG Studios. And yeah, he's a very, and if all goes well, cross those fingers. I'm gonna be meeting him at the protest.
Yay.
Where is that Ark anyway?
Okay, it's in a town called, I think it's Williamstown or Williamsport, Kentucky.
Okay,
just
Kentucky, got it.
Yeah, a little bit south of Cincinnati.
Because I mean, I think it might be fun to go see that someday. But the problem is I wouldn't want to pay admission.
Right. Yeah.
I think by the time I have the money to get there, it'll be shut down. Because I honestly think that thing is going to get shut down in a few years. So.
Yeah, well, this is one of the reasons I wanted to get there for once, because I've been wanting to get there for 3 years already. I mean, the other 3 protests I had wanted to get to.
Take that back. He does not need a haircut. His hair is on the way it is. Do not cut Aaron Ra's hair. No.
You know, it's funny because at Faithless Forum, they had this whole thing where they would ask people up on the stage to answer like 3 or 4 silly questions. And they were silly questions. They freely admitted, yes, we're being tongue in cheek here. And I mean, I did go up on stage. I answered some fun questions, but there was one question before I got up there that I wish I'd been asked was, without using the words scary, biker, or metal, how would you describe Aaron Ra? And I'm like, dude, that's perfect. I know exactly. If Genghis Khan and a Klingon had a bastard love child, that's Aaron Ra.
Yes.
You know,
I
and
totally agree.
as scary as he looks, and he does look scary, dude's a teddy bear. He really is.
I was watching one of his videos, and my brother came in, and he's like, "What the hell are you watching?" And he like, kind of leaned over and was standing at the computer, and he's like, "Is it just me, or does he look like Worf?" And I'm like, I'm like, yes, he totally looks like a Klingon. Like, it's hilarious to me. I love it.
Well, I actually have a picture. I don't know if I can find it, but I have a picture where they had sort of a costume thing.
Yes.
Oh, I know the one. I know the one.
And he's completely dressed up in Next Generation gear, and it's so perfect. Yeah,
I love that picture.
Someone Spooky in the chat says like shaving a haircut. There was a video I remember where Aaron Ross shaved his chin pubes off, and
really?
So weird looking. Oh my gosh, it was like
him without facial hair. Oh my god, no.
Well, I mean, there are a couple of YouTubers who used to have like beards and stuff. And when they shaved them off, they look so different, so radically different. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Some of them look better. Some of them look worse. I'm not naming names.
Yeah. for men, it really does make such a huge difference. I mean, like, because my ex had a full beard. And whenever we were together, I would not let him shave. I'm like, no, you're not allowed to shave it off. Because, like, for 3 years, he worked at a place where he was required to shave by like, workplace guidelines or whatever. And it was so funny because every time we went out in public, people thought that he was, like, literally a decade younger than his age when he was clean shaven. And when he had a beard, they thought he was 5 to 10 years older than his real age.
Oh, I know how that works.
I know what you're talking about. I've seen that happen.
Yeah.
That would happen to me. Because
really?
I wore a full beard for quite a while. And
you showed a picture.
Yeah. And especially when I was at uni the first time around, I'd look, or they tell me I'd look, 15 years older than I was. And here I am, like, like 17, 18, and they're thinking that I'm, in my 30s. Of course, now it's wonderful. Everybody thinks I'm 15 years younger than I am.
Well, there's this horrible meme going around Facebook right now where it's like, it's so sad when you can compliment a friend on their luxurious mustache and suddenly she's not your friend anymore.
That's funny.
Well, I make it a point to not let things get to that point.
Yeah, it's a horrible meme, but still funny. And I mean, that's the thing. I've been having discussions with people about what it is and isn't okay to laugh at, and like, I get where some jokes go too far. I get where some jokes hit below the belt or make fun of, say, like atrocities that are done to people. But at the same time, I mean, there are also, there is a kind of fun indulgence to dark humor. Like, why was the anti-vaxxers 2-year-old crying? Midlife crisis.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's horrible, but at the same time, how can you not laugh?
I love dark humor, and I think that a lot of it has to do with, I don't get offended at dark jokes or jokes about, crisis or tragedy or whatever. And I think it's specifically because that's in my own life, that's how I deal, that's how I cope with shit. Like, if I make fun of my own illnesses, for example, if I couldn't make fun of myself, I would have gone insane already. Like, you just, I have to laugh at it. Otherwise, I'm going to end up in a padded cell. It is what it is. So, I never really understood people being super offended at dark humor. I'm just like, I mean, it's not everybody's cup of tea, and that's fine. I'm not saying that you should be forced to listen to it and forced to laugh. I'm just, it's just a thing, and I enjoy it. A lot of other people enjoy it.
Well, I mean, I do understand getting really angry about, say, for example, jokes about casual rape. Right?
Yes.
There, I'm all about it. But at the same time, there are dark humor, gosh, the line between dark humor that is, God, I'm shying away from the word acceptable, but okay, let's put it this way: the line between dark humor that you can reasonably expect people to take as humor versus the dark humor where people are going to get grouchy about it, and you just have to understand that, and that they have reasonable reason to get snarky about it. I mean, like that's a line that I think some people aren't willing to acknowledge, and that, let's face it, everybody draws in a different place.
Absolutely.
So yeah, but I mean, if people start shouting like "triggered" or "SJW" when someone goes, I was raped and that rape joke isn't funny, at that point, I think you're just being an ass,
Like, that's out of it. There's absolutely no reason whatsoever. And I've been in situations like that where people were like, "Oh, #triggered," because I was speaking with and interviewing someone that had gone through a very severe sexual trauma in her childhood, and didn't like a joke that someone made that was put on Twitter or some shit like that, and people were putting #triggered does not help anything at all, especially when you're talking about something like rape. So that's just not conducive to the conversation. So if you're trying to do anything, like, in my opinion, the only thing that serves is it shows that you want to elicit a very specific response from that person. You are saying triggered because you want them to get upset and for them to yell and scream and shout and, quote, make an ass of themselves, which is why you're yelling triggered at the person who clearly is already upset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is it. They are already upset, and you're just like poking at that sore spot more by shouting triggered. And it shows a complete and utter lack of empathy. It shows an unwillingness to look at something that matters a lot to somebody else and say, I see why. I see how perhaps what I said was cruel or thoughtless, and like it's an unwillingness to own your own shit. And it seems like that's happening more and more these days. Where people are just unwilling to say, okay, I am willing to examine myself and see what happened here.
Yeah.
I
blame Twitter.
What was that?
I blame Twitter.
Oh, well.
I think most problems can be blamed on Twitter. I universally blame Twitter for most things.
Well, you remember Matt Powell?
Right? Oh, yeah.
Well, I took a part of a hangout I was in with him recently. It's actually my most recent video.
Yeah, I
where
saw
his whole position is that homosexuals are all pedophiles and should all be executed. And I directly challenged him to tell me that I should die for being a lesbian, and he wouldn't do it. Now, he claims, because there's a comment on my video, he claims he didn't do it because of YouTube's guidelines, right? But that if he saw me in person, in real time, he would tell me that I should die. And I'm like, okay, I've not. And he said if anyone does it, like if anyone makes him say that on their channel, he thinks that YouTube should give them a copyright guideline strike on that channel. And I'm like, okay, bitch, I double dog dare you. Tell me in real time, right to my face, that I should be executed. And I'm hoping he responds. One thing I would really like to do is to get as many LGBT people as I possibly can to make that challenge to him, to like give me footage so I can put it all in one video to say to him, yeah, tell us real people that we should die.
I'm
like,
for it.
Of people saying, "Tell me I should die." Is that to like put together? Is that what you're trying to do?
Sorry, say that again.
Are you wanting to get like clips of different LGBT people saying, like, just segments of them saying to the camera, "Tell me I should die"? Like,
yeah, basically, like just a big montage of people saying, "Tell me I should die." You know,
do that.
I would love to put that together. I actually tried to organize it a while back, but couldn't seem to get momentum for people to do it. But part of that was because I didn't put out a video call for it because I wanted it to be a surprise, that I wanted to have like the video come out without any warning. But I'm not sure that's a way to organize such a thing. So I might actually put out a video call for it. I don't know.
Well, if you do, you'll get a response from me.
Me too. I'll totally send a clip of that.
So we'll see. But yeah. Anyway, that's just something that's been on my mind for a while, and it's a bit of, let's call it, activism I'd like to do.
I think that's cool.
This is a very good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't understand the thinking behind that. Like, I should die because I can love a woman as easily as I can love a man? What?
I don't know. And
he's obsessed with sex. Like, they all are. They claim they're not, but they are. No one else is more obsessed with whose genitals do what than people that say shit like that.
And you know, the thing is that everyone who hears them say these homophobic things insists that they all have to be gay themselves to be that vehement about it. And I don't agree. I honestly don't agree. I'm sure a lot of them are. I'm sure that a disproportionate number of them are, but not all of them. Some of them are just scum.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, then. I'm going to have to wrap this stuff up because I think I'm going to try to see if I can't get a little bite to eat and that sort of thing, and start getting things ready at about 4:30. We're going to be on the air at 5 p.m. Eastern, and I hope everybody in the side chat comes on down. As I say, Aaron's an absolutely fantastic. Pardon me?
You said 5 p.m. Eastern?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 3 Pacific.
I thought it was 2.
Oh, you're right. It's a 3-hour difference. I was transposing the 3 onto the. You're right. It's a 3-hour difference, and I said 3 p.m. because that number 3 stuck in my head. That's why.
Okay. Yeah. And
you're right.
as I say, it's basically going to be on the protest in Kentucky, which I think is a very important thing, and I hope to get the word out and go from there. So, okay, as far as that all goes, then I'm going to thank everybody for being here in the after show, and it was very, very interesting. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Oh my!
Thank you so much for having me.
Say again.
I said thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure indeed. And okay, so until
is there going to be an after show for Aaron's thing?
I would like there to be. When I get hold of him to get him on the link, I'm going to ask him if he has the time for an after show. He most often does, but I hope he does this time around. And if
I'm going to be on that after show, I promise to be a little more kempt
Okay, because I'd love to have you on. I know you'd love to talk to him, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Mhm.
Aaron Ra's great.
I would
And
love to talk.
basically, what I'll have is a sort of a LIFO stack going, the way a lot of people do. Send a few things out, and then people who can drop off and have other people enter, and this way you get more than 9 people there, and everybody. Well, maybe not everybody, but a large number of people get a chance to talk to Aaron, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so, okay then, and let me bring this up, and to all of you, until 5 Eastern, I'm going to say, as I usually do, thanks a lot, troops. See you on the other side.